Hello, Denise.
Hi, everybody. There you all are.
Hey, David. 1, 2.
Oh, she's on.
Yeah, we got 5.
You guys on?
It's on. Okay, great. Okay, it is now 4 o'clock and I'm calling to order the meeting of the Finance Committee for the town of Nantucket for Thursday, September 28th, 2023. And I will call for an approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
We
Second.
have a motion and a second, and I'll go roll call, starting online with Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
and Rob.
Aye.
And it's an aye from me also. Thank you. It's hard to recognize all the faces in the audience here, but is there any public comment for items that are not otherwise on the agenda today? In the back. Nobody. Okay. All right, then we'll move it right along to number 4. There's been a request from the select board that we designate a member of our committee as a representative for the town council study committee. Denise, did you want to share any comments on this? I know you had
Yes.
conversations directly. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Stephen. I believe that I know that Peter Schaefer's interested, and I believe that Jill is, and Jill just sent me a text saying she's running late. So I don't know if maybe you want to push this to the end or at least until Jill arrives, in case she wants to discuss with Peter which of the two of them would like to be on it, or anyone else, obviously, in the room. So,
I was planning also, it's Jeremy, to submit an application.
Okay, great. Well, in fairness to Jill, why don't we punt and do this later in the meeting? Is that okay?
fine by me.
Great, let's do that. Then moving right along to item number 5, discussion, review, and potential vote on motions for articles for the special town meeting. And we'll jump right into Article 5. This is the zoning map change in the Nantucket Airport land vicinity of Sun Island Road. I would
And
entertain a motion. That would be. What is the motion, Maria? I don't see a printed recommendation here, so I think.
yeah,
I don't know if it's supported by the planning board, but if it is, maybe he knows. It should be 50%. Planning board.
Okay. Yeah, but it being a zoning article, it would have gone to planning board first, so typically we would support their recommendation. But I don't have those.
I might lose you if I try to. Leslie sent me an email earlier today, and I said that this was going to be up first. So I had expected Leslie to be on the meeting, Stephen. So let me see if I can get to my emails without dropping off Zoom. Otherwise, I will be back in as quickly as possible.
Denise
Okay.
and Stephen.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Just
Okay.
point of order, please.
So I prepared a draft warrant with draft motions. Denise, I sent it to you and Maria this morning. I can send it again right now to Maria, and maybe you can screen share it, Maria. It's very draft. It has a motion that I got from Leslie for Article 5.
Okay.
Maria, do you have that handy?
I have it then. I just need to open my email.
You what? Sorry.
She just needs to open her email.
Oh, okay, okay. If you, Meg, it looks like Megan's maybe has it handy.
So the planning board's motion was to adopt the article as printed in the warrant.
Okay, so then the motion would be either to support or not to support the planning board's motion.
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead.
Curtis Barnes. I went online and tried to get the documentation to for this meeting and I can't find it anyplace. And I went back about 3 or 4 weeks into the FinCom file and I never saw any of it. So aren't you supposed to make this available before the meeting so we can pull it up and bring it and look at it? Me as well as you.
The draft motions are a document that is internal leading to the development of public policy, so it isn't necessarily public. That being said, it can be shown on the screen today and it's changing every day. It's at the process to develop the FinCom motions is just very dynamic. So it wouldn't have been in the packet really before the last couple of days anyway, because it's only just getting finalized. That being said, if Maria is able to put the draft document on the screen, everybody can see what has been drafted so far.
But I'm talking about the whole vote on motions for the special town meeting warrant articles, not just for this. It's just a point that I think I thought they were supposed to be available.
That document is exactly what I'm talking about. It wasn't available 2 weeks ago because it hadn't been prepared yet. But this is how it works for all town meetings. So, Maria, do you want me to send it to you again, or do you want me to screen share?
If you can, Lee, because I'm trying to open my email right now. If you could share.
All right. Stand by. All right, so I'm on a computer with only one screen. So Denise, I feel your pain about this, but so again, what I'm showing you is a draft warrant with draft motions other than the motions you've already approved, which is I think 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're changing all the time. They're still under legal review, but obviously they need to be finished off basically today. So this is 5.
So Libby, this draft motion for planning board, has that been adopted? I mean, subject to the legal review you mentioned, has that been voted on by the planning board?
My understanding is yes.
Yes, the planning board had a public hearing on this September 11th, and then we went through and just reaffirmed those motions at our meeting on Tuesday, this past Tuesday.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to support the planning board on this article.
We have a second.
Second,
Thank you. And roll call, starting with Denise,
aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill, Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob, and that's an aye for me also. Thank you. Article 6, real estate conveyance conservation area adjacent to Surfside wastewater treatment facility to Nantucket Islands Land Bank.
So I drafted an adoptive motion for this right here. And again, this is basically a requirement of a permit the town has with the state for the permitting of the Surfside wastewater treatment facility. And this CMP, the conservation and management permit, requires a deed restriction. And that's basically what this is.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept planning board recommendation.
So there's no planning board recommendation on this one, but your motion would be as written in this draft warrant that we're looking at on the screen now.
Second,
So Peter, your motion is as written in the draft warrant that we see on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Denise, that's what you intended to second?
Yes, thank you, Stephen.
And moving on to a vote, we'll start with you, Denise.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I,
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and it's an aye from me. Thank you. Article 7, real estate acquisition easements in Lovers Lane, Okra Avenue, Monahanset Road, Airport Road, Skyline Drive, Webster Road, Evergreen Way, Rugged Road, and Dave Kim Lane for the Surfside Area Transportation Easements Project.
So we, I don't know if, how much you want us to re-review the articles, but this relates to the Transportation Enhancement Project. And because we aren't certain that we're going to get voluntary easements, we need to have the authority to acquire them by purchase, gift, or eminent domain. So the motion has been drafted to basically adopt the article.
Would anyone care to make that motion?
Motion to accept the article as written.
Second.
Thank you. And we'll go to a vote. Denise,
I,
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me. Thank you. Article 8, home rule petition acquisition of bike path easement by county.
So-
And
Oh, sorry, I got it.
go ahead, Libby, please.
I just gonna say, it, again, there's a, bike path being planned on Somerset Lane. And this particular parcel is needed for the bike path. However, it crosses over conservation land that is covered by a conservation restriction held by the land council. So a home rule petition is necessary to, authorize the the home rule petition is basically needed because the parcel has a conservation restriction on it.
Got it. And this is a piece of Bartlett Farm, is that right?
It is, yes. So the motion's been drafted to reflect the approval of the article.
Okay, so we have a draft positive motion here. Anyone care to make that motion?
before we do, Stephen, Libby, is the owner, is the land council happy with this easement? Or Bartlett?
They understand it, and actually, rather than conveying the easement to the town, they actually were asking for a home rule petition so that it goes through a more rigorous process.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody get paid for this land? Or are we taking it by eminent domain?
I didn't quite hear that.
Does anybody get paid? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no one will get paid for this.
Okay, thank you.
And this would be acquisition of an easement only, not of the land. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Maria,
Billy Cassidy has his hand raised.
okay. Well,
I didn't lower it fast enough. Libby pointed out what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion before I call for a motion, please? Okay, then I'll call for a motion, please, on Article 8.
Motion to accept Article 8 as written.
Second,
Okay, we'll go to a vote. Denise,
I,
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me as well. Thank you.
Stephen, if I
Yes.
may. This is John Giorgio. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you? Stephen, there is, going back to, Article 7. This comment has not made it into what you have on the screen. But we have an outstanding question about whether any appropriation is going to be required for the acquisition of these properties. And if you'll notice in the motion, we now have a placeholder that says subparagraph B, raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds. That's still under review, pending answers to the questions that we have provided regarding what the intent of the town is here. So this motion will most likely change. It will change, actually. I don't think an appropriation is necessary, but we need to confirm that. In which case, we'll just make a technical change to this motion and essentially take out that subparagraph or that clause B in the motion that starts with raise and appropriate.
Okay, procedurally, should we reconsider the motion that we just made? and vote?
No, what I would suggest, I think the motion that you made was fine, Stephen. I don't think we have to repeat that. I just wanted the finance committee to understand that we will most likely be taking some of the language in the motion.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Article 9, transfer of general fund housing appropriations.
So when we reviewed this particular article with you, I think we let you know that the $1 million that was approved at the 2022 annual town meeting for this pilot program that we were hoping would help the most rental challenged town employees turned out to be extraordinarily complex, and we weren't able to bargain it with the unions, which would have been necessary. So we'd like to use it for a different purpose. And because the purpose was so specific at the 2022 annual town meeting, we were advised by John that we should seek approval to use it for something else, but it is in the same sort of category of employee housing. And our intent is to reappropriate the funds for a couple of different housing related things, not entirely definitive yet, but which would most likely include things like helping develop plans for employee housing along Tacoma Way and other housing development projects that are in the works.
Would be originally, wasn't this supposed
Try
to,
to speak into the mic.
I'm sorry, wasn't this supposed to be amounts of money that were given to buy down costs for individuals?
Originally, it was actually to help offset rent only. It was going to be a rental program. But
And for town employees, if you remember.
Right,
Yeah.
but now we're using it for planning purposes and it's not going to the user. It might
Well,
ultimately, but
it's not,
originally
it's,
goes directly to somebody.
yeah, that it turned out there were too many tax, equity, bargaining, and other issues to make that really workable. And we were unable to find a model in any other town in the state or the country that was similar enough that we could piggyback on something that was already in the works. So while it won't go to an individual, it will go to employee housing that will hopefully benefit town employees by providing them housing.
Thank you.
Libby, I'm understanding a prior conversation that some of the union bargaining constraints, you moved past them and you thought in the future it would be easier to deal with them.
What that was, currently we had language that we were bargaining as part of the most recent collective bargaining. That language had to do with placing employees in town secured housing and having the union agree that the town is free to do that without any associated grievance or other action by the union. But it doesn't involve conveying any funds. It's just placement in housing.
What would it take to just get a better definition or plan of spending $1 million on developmental plans? And how long might that take?
Well, I think we wanted to be a little bit flexible and not identify any specific project because that tends to get tricky if the project comes in higher or we modify it or something of that nature. But I can certainly get you I just don't have it at my fingertips right now, the list of items that we would be using the $1 million for. It's more than one project.
That might be helpful. And don't we have a few weeks in which we have to finalize this? I can't
Well,
remember.
the motions need to be adopted today because we have to get this to the printer. The select board has to make its comments next
Okay.
Wednesday. But I can absolutely get you more details on this.
I remember, when we originally did this motion, it was up in the air a little bit at that time too. And I'm at the feeling that anything that's going to help housing for town employees, we should do. But obviously it would be nice to see what the thought was that they were going to spend $1 million on.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understand.
Okay, I'm sorry. Stephen, could I interrupt for 1 second?
Please, yes.
I had sent an updated version of the warrant a little bit earlier to Libby, and Libby, I just emailed that to you again. Would you be able to put that up on the screen in place of the one that you have?
Yep.
Thank you.
You just emailed it to me, you said?
I just emailed it to you, yeah. And Stephen, at some point, I know you already voted on Articles 1 through 4 the other day, but at some point I would like to go through with you how I've revised those based upon the votes the Finance Committee took the other night, just so everyone knows what they say now.
Okay, and given the content of Articles 1 through 4, and the fact that I have to recuse from those discussions, I think maybe it's
We
best
can
left
wait till
for
the end.
day when
Yeah.
Denise can be here,
Yep.
or if she's able to hang on the call. Anyway, we'll discuss after we get through the rest of them.
Thank you.
Denise, you're muted. You're muted, so nobody can hear you.
Thank you, Joanna. Yeah, I mean,
Who's
Stephen, let's just
muted?
hold
I'm
off
muted.
on those to the end and then I can chair from afar for the last 4 things.
Technology is wonderful.
Is it? I'm not sure.
So John, I'm going to pull it up, but I'm just, this is more kind of a note to me and you. I'm just going to have to remember, since I just made changes to that other document,
Okay,
I'll have to remember to do the same thing over here.
okay. So just going back real quickly on this other, on the document I just sent over. Article 5, we've inserted that the quantum of vote is a 2/3 because it's zoning. That's just informational in nature. And let me just see here, okay.
Where should I go to, Article 5?
Yeah, please.
Should we just show them Article 1's motion?
No, Libby, well, Stephen's chair, no.
Stephen,
Oh, yeah.
Stephen can't participate in that, sorry.
Sorry, guys.
So if you see in Article 5, we've added that it's a 2/3 vote because it's zoning. You can go down to 6. This is the vote that I talked about. I'm sorry. Article 6 is the transfer of the land. And that also will require a 2/3 vote. We've added that into the motions. Article 7 is the one, if you see that highlighted language there, this says raise and appropriate a sum of money, but we have a question on that. We don't think you need an appropriation. So if that's confirmed, we will delete subparagraph B.
John, isn't 0 also a sum? So why bother?
It affects the quantum of vote.
Okay,
If you appropriate any money for this, it's a 2/3 vote. If we take that out, it will be a majority vote.
understood.
John, would that also change the requisite number of voters in the room when we take action on Article 7?
Well, you have the higher quorum for a number of other articles. on this warrant.
So we hope that's not an issue. Okay,
Right.
got it.
Okay, I'm good with that. And Article 8, I don't think we had any further comment on that. Same with Article 9. So-
We haven't gotten to article, can we back up to 9? We haven't made a motion.
Oh, you
on this
didn't
yet.
vote on that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
We did vote on 8, not 9. Yep. All right, we're up to speed.
Thank you, John.
Any further discussion? Yeah, thank you, John. And any further discussion on Article 9?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand a little better how $1 million gets spent on planning. And I know, Libby, we don't have any time, but just any sense would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily planning, it's developing town employee housing, and there might be something that, for example, okay, so Tucker and I were discussing this morning. The town is acquiring a property at 19B First Way. It's a half of a duplex. And the amount, I believe, is $950,000. So it's possible that a portion of this, or almost all of it, will go to something like that.
So is it safe to say that the vast majority would be for hard asset purchases as opposed to soft planning purposes?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I want to write that in stone, but right now, Tucker's just confirming with me. Yeah, the 950 is, yeah, it's for 19B First Way.
Libby, how could Act Now have a program to buy down rents and we can't have a program to buy down rents?
I don't, John, maybe you can answer that, but the municipal restrictions are maybe greater than a private nonprofit.
Yes.
Maybe we
Well
need to
said.
form a private nonprofit and put the money in there. I'm just uncomfortable with $1 million ending up going to one unit where we thought it could affect maybe 50 people.
It does seem
Well-
like a lot of money for one unit. I mean, it's
Well-
the standard we've held the Affordable Housing Trust to on any other project. $950,000 for one unit is double what we're spending elsewhere.
Well, I mean, we're buying it, and I don't. I'm not, this is, as far as I know, was considered a fair market rate for half a duplex.
No, I don't think we're complaining about the price. I think we're complaining about the limited amount of people it's going to impact. And that's really, I think, would be my concern.
Well, the other option would have been just to put it back in the general fund. Because with the unions, we weren't going to get this done. So it was never going to, once it all failed in terms of trying to get this done. Frankly, the only other option is to put it back in the general fund and let it go against anything.
And
Well, if it came back as free cash, it would still have to be identified for some use in the future, and there'd be some level of scrutiny applied to that. And here,
Yeah.
we can't apply scrutiny because we don't know to what it might be applied.
well, okay, so I wasn't completely directly involved in this, but it's in order for the town to acquire 19B First Way, it's $950,000. So the idea is to purchase that property and rent it to town employees. So when we say it's only going to help, one or two, over time, it's going to help more than that. And it will help secure housing for difficult to hire positions that we aren't going to be able to fill unless we have housing. The other possibilities include the potential purchase of a property, which I'm not at liberty to discuss yet. And we have well, that would be the second million. We have actually $2 million in total for this so-called pilot program. Well, I'm confusing things now. At the 2023 annual town meeting, we appropriated a second $1 million in the current fiscal year, but we did not specify what it would be, that it would go to this pilot program. It was much more flexible in nature. And it is, yet it is specifically dedicated to town employee housing expenses. So that $1 million, and so just to take you back, a year ago, when we were developing budget recommendations for the current fiscal year, we didn't know if our pilot program was going to take off or not. We now know it isn't. So luckily, we have a second $1 million to use for employee housing purposes, and we are potentially going to direct it towards a likely shortfall in an upcoming article that relates to employee housing at Waite Drive.
So Libby, would it be, since I think the concern is a lack of definition around use of proceeds,
Yeah,
would it be directionally accurate to say that this use of proceeds will be for the purchase of properties for homeowner or for employee housing? And that way you have greater specificity. You're transferring a cash asset for a hard asset as opposed to expending and spending money. Maybe that is a solution, given the
yeah.
time constraints you have here.
Yeah, I think we could work, maybe John, I don't know if we can do this while we're sitting here. But maybe we can try to come back to it and work out something. Could you repeat what you just said, Jeremy?
Jeremy, will you repeat that for Libby?
Um,
I think John was out of the room.
You want to change it?
I was, the issue is to be directionally accurate on a use of proceeds of this $1 million beyond planning and developing purposes. And
Yeah,
maybe we could say that it is for the purpose of purchasing apartments, land, housing, for purchasing employee house, town to help the employee. Sorry.
Just change developing to purchasing.
Yes, I think that might work. Because I think my original concern and still maintain is if there's fuzziness, people are going to jump all over it. But if we have a specific directional use of proceeds that we're transferring
Okay.
cash for a hard asset, you head off that concern. And you
I'm sorry, I would say for the purpose of acquiring town employee housing and any costs incidental thereto.
That makes more sense. Okay. I think that's good, John. Jeremy, you comfortable with that?
sorry, John, can you say that again?
The purpose of acquiring town employee housing.
Yeah, the only question is, what is incidental costs? I mean, you want incidental costs to be, a little bit, not a lot.
What if the property?
No,
has to-
well,
Hey, that's part of, yeah.
yeah, we add that language whenever we are doing major projects. You'll see that throughout. Just they're unanticipated. There could be, for example, some title research that needs to be done or something like that. And so we always want to have that language in these major capital projects.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. I had one final question on this matter for Libby.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, but don't know, that this will not be for union employees of the town, given the constraint issues, tax equity and otherwise.
Actually, that's the language that we have been able to bargain with almost all of our units to allow union employees potentially to be housed in town secured housing without a further agreement or subject to grievances or anything like that. That's the language that we have now been able to negotiate. The other language had to do with providing actual payments to offset rent. That language was not bargain.
Okay, so this allows you to have additional unit or units for all employees.
Correct.
And let me just add at the end, including all costs incidental there too. After housing.
So I make a motion to accept the article with the changes that we just discussed.
I second.
Great, thank you. It was well done. Good teamwork, everybody. See if it passes. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye, unanimous. Great work.
Thank you guys very much. That was quite helpful, really. So 10, I think you all know, we have this little note here that basically explains it. This article did not pass at the 2023 annual town meeting. However, it was subject to a debt exclusion, which did pass at the subsequent election. And so we are trying again to get the article passed the town meeting. I think the Park and Rec manager is on if there are any specific questions about this.
And
let
just,
me-
just as a reminder, we moved to appropriate this last year. So the finance committee did approve this appropriation last year.
We also went back to the Capcom last week, I think, and they were okay with us.
And I recollect that it was a $5 million number. Am I right? In that
Three, and he's 3.8.
3.8.
3.8.
3.8? And there was a very large number to fix some of the existing fields, as I recall.
Yeah, they lay it out. They're gonna do a new field. They're gonna then work on existing, the parking, the side of hand. It's a permanent engineering. There's lighting and a lot more in there.
And Libby, you'll see that I took out the contingent language from the motion.
Yep.
We don't need that because the ballot question has already passed.
Got it.
Is the number gonna be in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
It is.
It isn't.
Create.
Yeah, we
It's
don't have that.
The numbers in the, yeah. If,
my,
you know what I
We
did?
do the warrant, we don't have the.
I logged in on Zoom
oh,
and then you
Then
can
you
see
can
what
see
they're
it.
doing behind you. Yeah.
oh,
Right, that's
oh,
very
so
helpful.
that's why. Oh.
Yeah, so Denise, just, I think you were asking earlier, but Capcom just restated we'd supported it last year, so we didn't need to revote. We just supported our previous vote and
Thank you, Jill.
can I make a comment about it though?
Please.
I'm really hoping that everybody will, not just, we're supporting this as a group and I hope we encourage people to support it while we're there. It didn't really get the airing that it deserved and I think we were all a little caught off guard. I think we thought this was something that would sail through, but you never know at a town meeting what they're going to say. And I just hope people, we need fields on this island. We need them. And the school's already using fields over at Delta. I think I've mentioned this before, but we need more fields. It takes 2 years to grow a grass field. So if we don't do it, like you're just delaying and delaying and delaying. And I just hope people will actually, if we need to stand up and say something, I hope we will.
I think that this is very much needed. My recollection as to how the sentiment changed was some of the town employees speaking to this issue had to be very defensive about how prior projects and fields were not maintained, is my recollection.
But the point was that you're right, but the point was that they hadn't been funded before. This was an opportunity to fund the project. And we also have a new Parks and Rec director. So, I don't think anyone had heard from Charlie before in that role. And so.
I think this is a very good thing and I would like to see it happen. I'm just recollecting why I think it didn't work last time.
Yeah, that's why I'm encouraging us to stand up there and explain why we supported it a year ago and we're going to support it now.
And make a motion to accept it as written.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. And before I call for a vote, and I don't have a specific question, but Charlie, since you're here, I'll recognize you if you want to make any comments.
Thank you. I was a little caught off guard at town meeting. I was prepared to talk about projects moving forward, not kind of discuss a history lesson prior to a Parks and Rec department being there. we've made a lot of progress over the past 2 years with the current fields. And this is the kind of first domino of the Parks and Rec master plan. So thank you for your support.
Great, thank you. Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. We'll go to a vote. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me. Thank you.
One just communication strategy suggestion on this, since a lot of people will remember stuff from a year ago. And I know that history lessons aren't great and nobody wants to rehash it, or some people don't want to rehash it. We have to just give a little thought to how it's possibly presented, given what occurred last year. Just no comment back needed, but just people ought to think about that.
Thank you. Okay, Article 11, supplemental appropriation upgrades to South Valley Sewer Pump Station.
So I think we now know, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to recognize David, but Libby, why don't you kick it off?
I think we now know the amount, which John, we've,
Yeah,
we're gonna
I
have
can
to,
sort of, would you like me to give a bit of a background on this?
yeah, go ahead.
So the Sewer Valley Pump Station, that's been a project.
South Valley. We don't have a place called Sewer Valley.
I'm sorry, South Valley, excuse me, Sewer Pump Station. Has been a project that has, been on the deck for a long time. And back in 2020, the town appropriated, I believe it was about 146,000 based upon a set of plans. 3 years later, the engineer has an estimate now that this is going to be closer to about, I think, 1.7 million. So obviously, we need an additional appropriation to get this done. It is we do not have construction bids. They're finalizing the plans to go out to bid. But in order to get this project done, before the next funding cycle, this appropriation, it's really a supplemental appropriation, is contained in Article 11. And I will just say, without getting into the details, we are still under discussions with the Richmond group on a cost sharing for the total cost of this project. You may recall in 2016, the town entered into an MOU with Richmond. And a lot has happened over the last 7 years, and not the least of which the costs for this pump station have increased dramatically. But the bottom line, the upgrade is needed generally for the town sewer system. And so based upon the engineer's estimates, and in order to have enough money for any contingencies, et cetera, the recommendation is that this be $2 million.
John, I think though, I thought Brian said 1,054,000 because we already have 7 on hand. 700,000 from a prior.
Okay,
time.
well, we can confirm with Brian. I've seen 2 numbers. I've seen the 1.7 and the 2 million, but whatever Brian says we need, I would hope the finance committee would give us the flexibility between those numbers to when we finalize the motions.
And so, John, that would be done as a technical amendment on November 2nd, prior to the start of special town meeting, correct?
No, I think within the next couple of days, we can get that number finalized and insert it in the finance committee booklet.
Okay, but we have to finish, we have to make all our motions today. So what we're going to move to appropriate the sum of to be determined. Spent by,
Can we go with the 1,054,000, John?
Yeah,
And
we
if we
can.
have to, we can do a technical amendment.
Yes,
Okay.
we could do that. Okay, sure.
Susan, I see your hand was raised. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, actually, I can answer that question in Brian's absence. I happen to be working on sewer capital right now. And we do have a balance of 746,000 in the original appropriation.
Okay.
And 3 is the number then, something like that?
I'm remembering from earlier today when Brian sent me the number, the additional funds needed is 1,054,000.
Okay.
And does that 2016 agreement with Richmond say they're going to pay half of that? Or is the town paying all of it?
This is very complicated. And we are still in negotiations with Richmond. And I would prefer not to comment publicly on how we're interpreting that 2016 agreement.
That 1054?
It should be, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
So probably should be 1-1. But whatever. Okay, make a motion to accept as changed.
Just waiting for the changes to be done. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
thank you. Jill,
aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me. David didn't even have to get out of his chair. Well done. Article 12, supplemental appropriation construction of town employee housing.
Okay, so we have one bid that came in for this last week, which is under evaluation right now. And my understanding is that we most likely are going to need additional funds, but we don't know what that number is right this second. So I guess I would recommend that this become a motion to be provided at the special town meeting.
Okay.
Libby, what's the over under just on it?
Well, it's, again, a little complicated because nothing around here is straightforward, but it has to do with a bid alternate and whether or not we want to seek additional funds to accommodate the alternate or whether we just want to go with the project without the alternate. So it could range from, it sounds like, don't hold me to this, around $1 million to something substantially higher. But in discussions that I had this morning with some staff, I think we're probably looking at between 1 and 2 million. We already have.
Roughly, what's a square footage or how many, what's a metric of the size of the project?
I want to,
Yeah.
no, I don't have that right handy. But I
Well-
can tell you that we appropriated already and have approval for $8.5 million for construction of this. This is a dormitory style dwelling with around, depending on how many people are in the rooms, between around, I think, 35 to 70-ish people. It's intended to house primarily seasonal staff such as lifeguards. And then the housing that we have currently for some of that seasonal staff could be repurposed for year-round housing for other town employees. And we had talked about also having some use of this dwelling for off-season purposes as well, perhaps a year-round apartment. Maybe more than one, depending on how many seasonal employees we can accommodate in here. So and I don't know off the top of my head right now how much square foot.
That's okay. So
Yeah.
it's a dormitory style building for between 35 and 70 people seasonally. That cost originally $8.5 million. You want roughly another $1 million to give you conversion capability. that roughly what this is?
Well, my understanding is that it's actually to fund the project because the bid came in higher than 8.5 by approximately somewhere around or north of $1 million.
So has it been built yet? I'm sorry, I don't.
No.
This is for, this is the funds needed to execute the contract to build the house.
Okay.
Libby, when they build
So they,
dormitory style, what do you mean by that? Is it one big, room with lots of beds in it, or is it 4 people?
Picture the Nantucket Yacht Club
Mhm.
dormitory, something along the lines of that. One big
So there's some
building.
single occupancy, some double occupancy rooms,
But
more
it'll
than
be,
one kitchen, but not like,
separate.
not like individual homes.
but when it's
Not-
designed, is it designed with the thought in mind of converting it to individual housing or housing for 4 people in a unit or something like that?
Yeah, there's some flexibility right at the moment because it's a modular, and so there will be some flexibility as to how many people per room. Every room will have a bathroom. There would be a central kitchen. The potential for one, possibly 2 year-round apartments would have like a kitchenette. But the rooms would be able to be flexible enough so that beds and things could be moved around to accommodate between 1 and 4 people.
Thank you.
Libby, it's Joanna. So you've identified the contractor for this. Somebody's given you a bid already and has come back and told you there's a shortfall between what their bid is and what they believe the actual
No.
cost of construction is?
No. The estimated cost of the project was 8.5 million. We
Okay.
went out to bid and the bid is higher than that.
Okay. And we know the exact number, or we will by the time of the meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
It's a little complicated because we just got the bid this week. So we haven't had a chance to fully evaluate it with our owner's project manager. And
Mhm.
because there was an alternate involved, we need to evaluate what our options are with respect to, are we going to seek additional funds to accommodate the alternate? But those
right,
additional funds are well over $1 million. So I think we're probably talking about
Right.
maintaining the one.
So what was the gap in time between the making the estimate, getting the 8.5 and then having the bid? Because it seems what's happening is that on almost every project we're doing, in a short time later, we're finding out that what we originally appropriated is coming in at, I don't know, 10, 15, 20% higher within 12 months. Is that
It's even sometimes less than that. We had a discussion with our OPM about this the other day, and he said that this is happening all across the state with very high prices on building projects.
okay?
It's quite frustrating all over the place.
So then my question would be, would it be smart for us to appropriate more than the difference? Or is that something that we can do?
I don't think we'll need to do that because the bid is the bid and it's good for a certain period of time.
Okay,
So the actual motion would be motion to be provided at STM.
Yep. It won't even be a motion. I don't think it'll just be motion to be provided at.
Okay. So we don't have to actually
So no-
vote on
so
this
no
one.
Vote needed then. Great. Well, good background, and it'll be interesting to see what that number comes out to be.
We'll make sure we send a full report on this because I know it's last minute and all. 13. So I haven't been at my computer since earlier today, and I have emailed Noah earlier. to find out if they have a number. But John, do you know if we got anything, or Maria, do you know if we got?
So
anything?
Libby, if I can jump in first.
Oh, sure.
So I and Jill obviously is the representative to Capcom from FinCom, but I was speaking to Stephen Welsh this afternoon, and Capcom has not deliberated or made a recommendation in respect of this. So the process, I mean, we had a topic a couple years ago where the airport came to us in advance of getting Capcom sign off. And I suggested at that time that was a one and done. And so I am reluctant to make a motion on this, even if you have a number, until Capcom has had a chance to do their review and made a recommendation. So my proposal is, and Jill, I'll stop talking in a second, let you jump in. My proposal would be take no action, and then the airport can make a positive motion on the floor of special town meeting. Jill, did you want to add any?
Sure, they just haven't come to Capcom at all with anything. I think that they were getting some numbers in this week and working on them. And so I don't know what their timeline is to fine tune that and come back, to be honest with you. We weren't told of any date, but I think it's a good idea that because this is supplemental, this is more funding for a project that we just gave money to in May. And so I think it would be a good idea if Capcom did see it, because we haven't seen it at all.
Is there a material difference between this, the stage of this airport housing project and the town employee housing project?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What
You
is
mean
it?
financially?
No, I mean, what is, I mean,
Yes.
did Capcom get a review of the town
Yes.
employee housing? Okay. What
You
is
mean
it?
financially?
That dorm project, but not the airport housing?
We did not see, we did not see the supplemental funding. I think, again, Brian only got those numbers this week. So I'm not familiar with that either. At Capcom, we didn't see that.
Libby, in answer to your question, we did receive an email from Noah today. And he said that the additional supplemental amount is $2,115,000.
So basically, they're in the same position the town's in with regard to the bids on their housing projects.
Yeah,
Yes.
but they financially, to be honest with you, the cost per bedroom, because they're also looking at doing a dorm. And if y'all really want to drill down and compare, I think the costs are quite different. So you might look at it, each project very differently.
Yeah, I think their configuration is a bit different.
Okay.
I would encourage I would encourage us to just listen to see the airport budget first, because we've not seen that at Capcom.
So is Denise, did you make a motion?
No, I was just saying, so we had a couple of years ago, I can't remember what the appropriation was for, but Tom came to, it was during COVID, I know that.
Yeah, I
And,
remember.
and I said, look, because of the urgency of it, we'll
Yeah.
accept our deliberations on it, but I am very unhappy that we're talking about it before Capcom is. And I don't ever want this process to happen again.
Right.
There's a process in place, there's reasons for it, and I think, it's prudent, it's prudent reviews by two independent committees. So I personally, I mean, we can all vote as we vote. I personally am uncomfortable approving this without having Capcom even having seen it.
Libby, is there it's a big piece of land, if I recall. There's room for expansion on there. Is there any discussion of the town using part of that for employee housing in addition to the airport housing?
I think we can.
I can answer that
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
want.
we're gonna find that we'd have to rent it at fair market value.
Well, I think what I understand, I met with them yesterday. I mean, you have to be qualified as emergency personnel. Now, I think the question is, can town employees be identified as emergency personnel at the airport? That apparently does not include TSA employees, but it includes everyone else who works for the airport.
So a policeman who works for the town wouldn't be considered,
They don't qualify.
and who makes these these are federal restrictions?
Yes,
Yeah, but
you
I
can get
think,
waivers, I think.
well, I think also if they were so inclined, it might be possible for the town to rent property to construct something, but we'd have to pay fair market value.
Yeah, that's a requirement of the FAA.
Okay, thank you. So I make a motion that we take no action.
Second,
Could I-
Just a
and
quick question before we, thank you. Quick question, John, would this also qualify for motion to be provided at STM in the chance that they get an opportunity to get their numbers together, get Capcom to sign off, and then we can make a motion then, rather than
Yeah.
do take no action and, because you do, would that be a more
That
prudent
would
way to
be,
approach
yes,
this?
Denise, that would be perfectly fine. Peter may have meant take no action tonight. I'm not sure what his intent was, but you.
Yes, John, you got it.
Yeah,
And John, just so that we don't push voters one way or the other, can we just make an extra sentence as to why we take no action?
Well,
And that is that we have not,
That's not being discussed now. I think the new
Yeah.
proposal is that it just says motion to be provided at town meeting.
Yeah.
correct.
Hope that Capcom has its opportunity to do its review and give it a thumbs up or thumbs down before then. And then we can make a motion on the day.
May
I
I,
think it's a good course of action. I was just thinking that, well, I'm sure that's fine. I was just saying that the reason we're taking no action is we're waiting for these recommendations before we review it.
Right, but to take no action is an action. That's a vote. To just wait to make a motion, that's different. Doesn't require
That's, that's correct.
printed that we're gonna make a motion at some later date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take no action is like the soft no.
I
don't
I
make
withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
so can I just clarify
I think-
something?
Sorry.
Yes, please.
On September 21st, town administration went to Capcom to discuss the special town meeting warrant articles, including our housing project. And the airport was there as well. Noah reviewed this article, Article 13. He indicated that bids were opened on September 20th. One bid was received. And they were evaluating it, I believe. But now, according to Sue, they have a number. But my notes reflect that there were some questions at Capcom specifically about the airport housing, and I don't know if anybody who was there recalls what the follow-up was to be, but it's sounding like what I'm hearing is the follow-up is the airport needs to go back to Capcom with their number.
Yeah, basically that what they did today was that I just had a 2-hour meeting with them. They went over next year's request. In that they asked for another $6 million to build 2 more structures or 4 more dwellings. It was unclear. So there was a lot of discussion about that. So we've approved money for an existing project. They want supplemental funding now that we don't have a number on. And then now in that request, they ask for more money for a second dwelling. So I think there's going to be some confusion about that, how that's happening so quickly. And I think it would be a good idea for us to let them come to Capcom first.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So no vote required here either. We'll wait for further information, hopefully from Capcom. Moving on to Article 14, National Opioid Settlement Payments Special Purpose Stabilization Fund for Substance Abuse Efforts.
John, how do you feel about taking this one? The motion is a positive. We did discuss this early on. I guess maybe if you have any questions, we can answer them.
Yeah, so under the opioid settlement agreements that have been entered into, that towns are required to use the settlement proceeds for eligible expenses, meaning addressing the opioid crisis. And so DOR has said that the town cannot simply expend these settlement funds. They have to go into the general fund, wait to be appropriated as free cash, and then can be appropriated by town meeting. But in order to maintain an accurate accounting for the funds and how they're spent, DOR has said it's appropriate to put them into a special purpose stabilization fund, which is what this article does. And as a stabilization fund, so if this passes, any future opioid settlement funds will go into this fund, can be appropriated at town meeting by a 2/3 vote, but only expended for for substance abuse programs under the settlement. Now, not to get too complicated here, but there is a bill pending. It was supposed to have passed last spring. It hasn't passed, but there may be legislation coming down that would allow the select board, with the approval of the Department of Revenue, to put these in a separate account, a new statutory account, and to expend those funds without the need for an appropriation. Unfortunately, that legislation has not passed, so this is the best option to comply with DOR requirements. In the future, we may be able to move these funds to another statutory fund if the legislation is passed. And the funds, the version that I've seen, the funds could then be expended by the selectmen without the need for a appropriation.
So is
Yeah.
it fair to say we have no water pressure and we're just building a special pipe?
We have no water pressure and I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, so there are no funds that have been yet received, and we don't know when and if we will get any funds. But we are required to, if we were to get it, to deal with it in this manner.
We actually have gotten some funds.
We have gotten some funds, that's correct. And I'm not sure if Nantucket, see, the other option is when you get these funds, you can go to DOR and request a recertification of your free cash, and then it's available to be appropriated. I'm not sure if Nantucket did that, but the opioid funds that you have received so far, you received prior to the closeout of the last fiscal year. So those amounts will be shown in your free cash certification, but you have to earmark those funds for substance abuse programs. You also, in the future, could potentially transfer that amount of free cash into this stabilization fund, which is what I would you do perhaps at the spring town meeting. And I'm sorry it's so complicated, but I didn't write the law.
Motion to accept as written.
Thank you.
Second,
All right, any discussion on the motions? Denise,
Hi.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me. Thank you. Article 15, amend description of public works facility improvements design location.
So as previously reviewed, since the 2023 annual town meeting, we have added an additional site to be evaluated for the Public Works facility, 1 Shadbush Road, already owned by the town. And so in order to continue work on the potential of this facility being out there, we need to add the description to the article, the original appropriation.
Yeah, at 2023, we added and/or 10 Sun Island Road, right, Libby?
Yeah, and yeah,
And now you're just adding at and/or Shadfish Road.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Second,
Second,
thank you. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me. Thank you. Article 16, real estate acquisition, 8 Nichols Road.
So this came from Andrew early on. And I think it's meant to close out a transaction that has unclear title. And the way to clear the title is to take it by eminent domain. And so I think this is the necessary authorization to do that. I think this is something that's been pending for a while, and I can get more details, but I think it's pretty routine.
Yeah, and if you could scroll down just a little bit, Libby, please. And also, there was an error on this was a yard sale transaction.
Okay.
And there's an error on the land court plan,
That's
which
right.
requires an amendment to the order of taking. And so we need a town meeting vote to clean this up.
Move to accept the finance
Second.
committee motion as written.
Second,
So John, has this already been offered to the abutter whose property surrounds this parcel? I mean, do we
Yes,
just clear
I
title?
believe-
Okay.
No, Stephen, I think that is accurate. And in preparing for the closing, it was determined that there was an error on the plan and therefore an error in the order of taking. And so this is really just housekeeping to clean that up.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. We'll go to a vote. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. And it's an aye from me. Thank you. Article 17, elected official compensation schedule amendment. I
So
don't see
this,
the old schedule. What was Sarah getting before?
it's actually only this, oops, it's only the town clerk. Ah, shoot.
Ah.
And it goes along with our compensation and classification study. And this is actually, we're probably going to make another adjustment more significant at the annual town meeting for this position. Based on market studies and internal and external comparisons of comparable positions, we're recommending an increase in this. Oh, you know what?
The original salary was 122,000 from.
Thank you. I don't
Yes.
know why it says 133 here. This I think should say 122. What was it, Maria? I'll have to check into this.
122,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
122,000.
That's why we're amending it. It's not, it's just unfortunate. It's the current salary is not shown here, but it's 122. It's going to 133.
Okay,
So 133 is the correct number.
correct.
Yeah.
Voting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
133.30 and $30. Let's
Yeah,
be
right.
clear.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Thank you. We'll go to a
And
vote. Oh, John, did you want to comment?
I just wanted to say, if you could scroll down just a little bit, this will require a 2/3 vote because under chapter 41, section 108, you cannot change the salary of an elected official at a special town meeting unless you do so by a 2/3 vote.
Okey dokey.
All right,
Thank you,
Denise,
John. Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill has stepped out, so I'll go to Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. It's an aye from me. Thank you. Article 18, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Syosconset Sewer District map change, Codfish Park. David, did you want to speak today? Okay, all right.
I want to hear from the horse's mouth.
Yes. Yep, there was a lot of public comment in our first hearing on this.
And the NPNEDC has also had a unanimous vote not to support. This is an environmentally sensitive area, and infrastructure improvements that result in an increase in developments of this area should be discouraged.
So David, is it true that it's just one person who brought this situation up?
Yes, thank you. It's one owner that has brought this forward, and we discussed in length that there was we don't have the capacity. It was never in the design of the treatment plant. So if they do, we don't allow single spaghetti lines anymore. So it would have to be a pretty robust system.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a draft motion written here. It's behind us, not in front of you, Jeremy, but in front of those of us with screens. And the motion is not to adopt the article, and then there's some explanation there.
Our motion could be just to support this.
We would make the motion not to adopt the article.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
We'll leave it to Maria to determine who made and seconded that motion, but it did happen. So we'll go to a vote. Denise,
Aye.
Motions.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. It's an aye from me. Thank you. We have another bylaw amendment, sewer commissioners, sewer district map change. This is for two parcels, 62 and 64 Sankaty Road. And the draft motion is a positive recommendation on this one. At the public hearing, I didn't hear any commentary. David, can you give us some background?
Again, thank you. David Gray, sewer director. This is along the stretch of Sankaty that heads up towards Bayberry and the golf course. These two properties were in the actual initial CWMP. And if we end up going further ahead with the Baxter Road relocation of all the utilities, a sewer main will be passing these properties directly in front to replace the existing sewer, to move it so that it's out of harm's way. So that's why this one received a positive recommendation from our group.
So where does the actual line run, or where would it run if this is connecting?
What it would end up doing is running in towards Wisconsin Village down to Meeting House Lane is where the nearest gravity is. There is also a current line across the street that was put in a few years ago that when we go forward with Baxter Road, those would all be changed over to connect into this line. It'll be a more robust line, bigger line, and there's other properties that in the future may connect, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Who pays for the connection?
An individual like this, they would pay all the fees, and they would have to design the system that has capacity to accept future expansion in the direct area that the line passes. So it would be, there'd be a valve left at the end with a flushing valve and expansion to connect something in further. Now, the Baxter Road stuff is moving sometimes quickly, sometimes not. It may end up even having to be a bigger line, but that's still a little ways down the line.
So the homeowner pays.
The homeowner would pay initially,
once it
yes.
goes by.
Yep.
So given that, what are we voting on here? Because the sewer line goes by there.
We're voting right now to allow those parcels inside the sewer district. They were left out many years ago there was not many dwellings down in that area.
Voting to allow them to join up to the sewer.
The sewer district, correct.
The select board is the sewer commissioners.
Yep.
So we're voting to support their decision.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, we'll go to a vote. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. It's an aye from me. Thank you. And we've reached the end. Article 20, bylaw amendment, Board of Sewer Commissioners, Town Sewer District map change, Burnt Swamp Lane. David?
Again, David Gray, Sewer Director. This isn't one that did get a positive recommendation. The Burnt Swamp area, as most of Hummock Pond Road, is already in a needs area that was listed in the 2004 and 2014 CWMP. Extremely poor soils in this area. They already have the sewer districts to the left of them and to the right and across the street. So that it's just a parcel that had been left out in the past. It would ultimately be added into once the Hummock Pond North or South project goes forward, but right now they're having some real issues with soil and high water levels, so they want to, they're moving a little bit faster than we are, so this would allow them to get into the district.
Great. Looks like we have a positive motion drafted.
Can I just ask one question? Didn't the land bank just purchase, what, 15 Burnt Swamp?
The land bank does own a certain parcel that's in there, and you'll notice that number is not in this list. Initially it was, but I guess the sale was pending at the time, so that one was removed. I don't think they have any intentions of building there,
Okay.
but it's in a needs area. If they do go forward with wanting something there, they could get into the district.
It's a motion to adopt as written.
Second.
Okay. Don't see any hands for further discussion. Denise,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Jill,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Rob. Aye. It's an aye from me. And that concludes our,
Yeah, the beginning.
go back to, yeah,
1 to
town
4.
council wanted to address 1 through 4. Yeah.
No,
wait.
wait. First, we're gonna do before, because Stephen, you'd have to step out once we do. So I'd like to go back to designating a finance committee representative to the town council study committee, because Jill wasn't in the room at the time. And I wanted to make sure that everybody who had interest could express their interests. So let's do that, and then we'll go back to 1 to 4, and you can step out.
Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen.
So I would like to be on the committee, now that now the short-term rental committee is over. I'm looking for another committee to get on, and this is a real important committee. So I would like to be on this committee.
I applied to be on the committee as well. There were actually, like, at the time, they're gonna take
Thank you.
more people, I think, to be on the committee now, right? They open it back up for more people.
Yeah, till tomorrow.
But,
I think.
yeah, I mean, I've worked in politics and particularly in government, federal government for a long time. And, you know, these kinds of issues with process really interest me. It sounded like, do we get a member and an alternate? Is that how that works?
I don't know. What was the request, Denise?
A member. So I think I think we could potentially appoint an alternate like we did for the short-term rental working group.
Denise,
But
they
that,
did want an alternate.
oh, thanks, Libby. Never mind.
Sorry.
I can stop talking. Great. Yes. So
And Libby, would it be possible for a person who is on the finance committee but applied as a resident to be on the committee as well?
I mean, as an at-large member?
Yes. Well, they're all going to be at
Um,
large, except for the finance committee and the select.
I
board.
mean, I think it just, they can certainly apply, and it'll be up to the board to so just as an example, if you and Jill have both applied just as residents, not necessarily as you haven't applied because you're on the FinCom.
No, I applied as a resident months
Yeah,
ago.
so
Yeah.
they could potentially appoint both of you, but they're still going to want a FinCom rep. So if you don't want to be FinCom, you want to, you don't really want to be the FinCom rep, then we're going to need somebody else to be the FinCom rep.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was actually thinking, are they going to be frowning on having 2 people from FinCom on the committee,
Right.
even if one of them is a resident, not representing FinCom.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
And just to complicate it, I was planning by Monday at noon to submit a application as well for myself, as I too have an interest in this government and trying to improve things.
Point of information.
Curtis?
I just want to point out that the intent or the arrangement that I understand for this committee is anyone can come to the meeting and speak. You don't have to be a designated representative to do that. So even if the three people here don't all get appointed, they can still come and participate actively, and I certainly hope they do.
Thank you.
But do you know, Curtis, if that's like, are they gonna allow more than, are they gonna allow 3 people from FinCom to be on this? I mean, is that your hope? I mean, this was your article, so tell us what your dream makeup is for the committee.
Well, it's now administered by the select board, I believe.
No, but
First of
Curtis
all, I'm
did
not
have
even
it.
on the committee. That's my article.
You got to get on the committee, right?
But any person can come to a committee meeting and speak. When we had the town government study committee, it was open. People came, they told us their concerns and their problems. And I certainly hope with the town council study committee, there will be a lot of activity. A lot of people will come. It won't just be 8 people sitting in a room. What I'm saying is all 3 of you could be there. One a designate and the others as citizens. You can still speak and be involved. So go for it. Be there, please.
but you can't vote.
Correct.
You can. That's the whole point. You can go and talk.
No, you
No.
can't vote.
Can't vote.
You can't vote, but you can make your voice heard. And my dream for this committee is it's really going to work hard and come up with some good recommendations. So no, you can't have 72 people vote, but you can have 72 people in the room and speak.
Understood. Thanks, Curtis.
Okay, so my suggestion would be that if I was to, think about this and off the cuff, because 3 candidates, all of which are qualified, the more time you spent on FinCom, the more helpful you're going to be in the town government stuff, because you've just had more experience in how all of this works. So of Jill and Peter, you're about equal, and Jeremy, you're obviously newer. So I'm wondering if Jill and Peter, not saying Jeremy, you can't do it, but maybe you're more apt as a private citizen to get in it because you're a relative new member of FinCom, whereas Jill and Peter, as a private citizen, would probably struggle to get in it and would need to participate as a FinCom member. So that's my first thought, and I would happily, or, Stephen, you're the chair, you pick. No, I'm just kidding. So.
Well, I've been checking my pockets and I don't carry coins anymore. So I don't, yeah, so I can't flip. So
Libby's the queen of flipping coins on things. That's really, you should leave that to
We
Libby.
can alternate, yeah. So
Please
it's
don't.
fine.
I don't ever leave the island, more than a week at a time, maybe. So I'm here through the entire time for the meetings. And I don't think I missed one of the short-term working group meetings. I was in person on all the ones that could be in person and online for the rest. Jill, do you leave the island?
I really don't. I mean, I go
Okay.
on typical trips for,
Yeah, but you don't go to
school
Florida
and
for
things.
3 months or anything like that.
no,
Yeah,
I
there's
wish I
anything
could do
wrong
that.
with
I
that.
can't afford to do that. I work here. I'm here, but I don't know if these meetings are gonna be all in person or on Zoom or what the state requirements are now. I mean, I don't want us to have some big thing about this. For me personally, I've been involved in a lot of government work
Mhm.
in my whole life since I was young. And so I feel passionately about it for myself. I don't want to take away that you don't feel passionately about it and you're my friend. So I'm not trying to do that, but I really love this stuff. I mean, I've passed bills in Congress and done amendments and So it's just something that I naturally am drawn to. And that's my background. And that's why I like it. And that's why I like FinCom. And gosh, this process is totally different though.
Definitely it is.
I mean, I think on this, we're spoiled for choice here amongst the three of you to participate. I know each one of you would bring a set of abilities and talents. I really don't want to be the person picking. And I know there's a voting process that happens in the select board when they're looking to put committee members in, but I really, I don't really feel like we would want to do that here. I would love for the
Let
three
Curtis
of you. Pardon?
I said,
Let
let's
Curtis pick. Yeah,
Curtis pick,
exactly. Now I'm going to let Susan pick or Billy Cassidy, whoever's on this call. So do we have to pick somebody today,
Curtis
Libby?
does have a comment though, please.
Yeah,
Could
but
could
let me
I
finish
offer an
first.
opinion?
Wait, Curtis, wait, please. Libby, do we have to pick somebody today? Could the three of them sit down and work this out and then just say say it is after the fact?
Yes.
There you go.
We have
I would love the
Oh,
I would
we
love the
can-
three of you to decide amongst yourselves, unless you really want the rest of the committee to pick which one of the three of you it should be. Curtis, go ahead.
I love you all. But I would like to see Jill come on the committee and Peter as the alternate. Because you work so hard on the short-term rental committee, you need a little break and Jill is ready to go. So if,
Yeah, I'll go with Curtis. I'll resign. I don't want to be the alternate. But I won't, I don't.
well,
want-
Why don't you
I
go be the
don't
alternate?
want to say that because you'd be great, but I just,
No, it's fine. I-
anyway.
No,
I-
I think we can probably work it out. I think actually the bigger issue is I don't know that committee wants so many FinCom members. So I'm
Right.
concerned about that for all three of us. So I think we probably need a little bit more guidance from the select board about how they're looking at it, because they have multiple town employees that have applied to be on as well. So they're addressing this through. Yeah, I think they will. So this decision could get made for us. Like if they say, hey, it's fine that you're on FinCom and you can be a FinCom rep and I could go on as a citizen. I mean, then I don't think it. I think we could just use a little bit more guidance to talk to them.
I don't think there's anybody who can give us guidance, unfortunately. I think it's so
Well, can't
so
we?
much disagreement among the select board themselves trying to form this committee. Whether there should be a moderator, not be a moderator. They're looking for a moderator. They're not looking for a moderator. I
Right.
mean, it's a challenge. And if they had a moderator, by the way, they'll probably everything will be online, which was a shame.
Oh, I know. I agree with you. I think it should be in person. I totally agree with that. Denise, we're lamenting that you're not in person right now.
Oh, no, Denise agrees 100% about being in person.
White's, I know, you're all missing me desperately. I miss all of you. I suggest that the three of you sit down at some point and have a coffee and sort it out. And then just
Okay.
let me know which one of you it will be of the three of you. And I will inform the select board accordingly and before their next meeting next Wednesday. So then that way we have a name available and we won't decide it today. How's that? Does that work?
Good. Sounds good.
Okay, good. Okay, Stephen, I would like to congratulate Stephen's chairmanship of getting unanimous votes on every single one. And I now
That's the
appoint
new
Stephen.
standard for annual town meeting, Denise. So we're gonna be looking to you.
I still, no, I was just supposed to say, I now step aside and Stephen is the official chair. So it's excellent.
Not accepted.
Thanks for earning the chair seat, Stephen. Excellent. So thank you very much, Stephen. Jill, as you had to step in and chair before while Stephen had to step away, I'm going to ask you to chair the rest of the meeting because it is obviously easier in person. While John
Okay,
takes us
I was
through
hoping-
one through four.
I was just asking Peter to do
We're
it,
not
but
gonna vote. We're not going to vote on anything. We're just looking.
we're
at
just
it, right?
listening, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I don't care. Of the two of you, one of you do it, please, and then
Yeah, we, and
We'll
we'll
do
be an
that.
alternate.
there you go.
So
Okay.
are we looking at Mr. Giorgio to
Yes,
educate
take-
us on our motions?
He's still on.
Correct.
Libby, would you be able to put that back up on the screen and go to Article 1 to the motion?
Maria, can you do it?
I can, I'll do it, Libby.
Thank you. I had to go switch over to my iPad because my home internet isn't good at this time of day.
We have to go down to the motion.
The emotion.
Okay, so I'll just run through quickly the changes that I made. Previously, Article 1 was not linked to the passage of Article 2. So I added language that basically says that the article, that is, Article 1 will not take effect unless and until the zoning article, which is Article 2, is adopted at the November 7th special town meeting in substantially the form set forth in the planning board motion under Article 2. And it is approved by the Attorney General. So that links Article 1 to Article 2. And I believe that is what you, I believe that is what your intent was.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Yes, John.
But are there now two votes? So
You're
there are
gonna
two-
vote on separately. You're gonna vote separately, but
We vote separately, but
one needs 2/3, one needs 50, one needs a majority.
Yeah, this one needs a majority vote.
But the majority is for Article 1, not for Article 2, correct?
That's
Article 2
correct.
Article 2 needs 2/3?
Yes,
Yep,
and if Article 2 fails, the whole
Yeah.
thing fails.
right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So the whole thing needs
Yes.
2/3 vote.
Essentially, yes.
Right. Exactly.
But that's because it's a zoning issue. You can't get around that.
Correct.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so if we could then go down to subsection H in the motion, which is the grandfathering, sorry. Okay, you know what? I'm sorry, but this version that's up on the screen does not reflect my most recent changes, but that's okay. I think I can explain it to you. So if you see, this is the language that the planning board recommended with respect to grandfathering.
Mhm.
And you'll see that first sentence basically says that if you have issued a certificate of occupancy, in the final version that Libby now has, we're going to strike out as of the effective date of this bylaw, and instead, which is what the planning board wanted, prior to the November 7th special town meeting. So that's the only change that is not reflected in this version. And that was my error. I put in as of the effective date of this bylaw, but then I realized that the planning board intended it to be prior to the actual date of the special town meeting. The effective date of this bylaw will not be until after it's approved by the Attorney General. Okay,
A house is under construction and it's 95% done. They can't get a CO, so they cannot rent it. They'll be on the 4
yes.
term rental rather than 9.
If they don't have a certificate of occupancy by November 7th,
Got it.
they will not be subject to the grandfathering protections for the 9 changes in occupancy.
You have to
Gotta set it.
you have to have a date, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
is that what you all intended?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, if we could then go down to Article 2. So yeah, just go back. Yeah, that's good. So this was a little bit of a challenge. But I want to tell you, I did revise this linkage language in both articles after I talked to a couple of my colleagues. I think this is cleaner and more understandable. So what this linkage says, it amends chapter 139, but these amendments will not take effect unless chapter 123, the general bylaw, is amended at the November special town meeting in substantially the form set forth in the Finance Committee printed motion under Article 1. Okay, and I think that that's important because it is different than what's printed in the warrant.
Mhm.
So I think that tightens up this quite a bit. Now, depending upon what happens in Article 1, let's just say, for example, let's just say for an example that somebody makes a motion to amend the FinCom motion to reinsert the language that's in the warrant, okay?
Mhm.
Then, and that passes. We are going to have to adjust this language on the
Mhm.
fly in
Mhm.
Article 2 to reflect whatever the vote was under Article 2.
Mhm.
I've discussed this. I told you I would have a conversation with the moderator, which I have done. And I believe that Sarah is okay with this linkage language, and she understands we might have to take a brief recess after Article 1 in order to change this motion for Article 2, again, depending upon the outcome of Article 1.
Okay,
So we gotta
good.
make motions on the fly? Is that what
It's-
we're saying?
I-
So we might change our motion after Article 1.
Yes, that's certainly a possibility.
Okay. And do we think that there are going to be other comments in the warrant?
I'm sorry, Jill, other
Do
what?
we think there are going to be other comments in the warrant from the select board, or people are just going to maybe represent their views that night?
I don't know.
Select board.
I thought I heard Libby say something about next Wednesday night, the select board was going to potentially insert comments.
Correct.
Okay.
But the warrant is finalized with our motions, is that correct? And so the select board can put a comment about our motion, but if the select board wants to change the article, they have to do it on the floor for special town meeting.
Correct.
Yes, well, so the warrant article has the select board language. I
Right?
don't mean to pit the two of you against each other, but that
No,
has
and
the
neither
language.
do I.
This motion is the Finance Committee motion, and it has
Yes.
changed the warrant. So
Yeah.
anybody, any voter at town meeting could move to amend the,
Mhm.
I'm going back to Article 1 now, but to amend the Finance Committee motion
Yeah,
by substituting the language that was printed in the warrant in lieu of the Finance Committee motion.
or they could make a completely different amendment that they've cleared
Any,
the separate
if
part.
if it's within the scope, Denise.
Yeah, and they
Uh,
could, for example, they could delink them.
They could take out the linkage language.
Yeah,
They could
Yeah,
also
there's-
revise they could change anything as long as it's within the scope.
yeah, okay,
So
thank you.
We're just going to have to be very flexible.
Okay,
John, if you take out the link, if somebody wanted to take out the linkage, would that fall under, would that fall under 1 or 2? It would fall under 1.
Potentially, it could fall under either one.
So how much, what would the vote be?
Sorry?
Would you need a majority or you need 2/3?
Any amendment, even to a zoning article, is a majority vote to amend
Okay.
the motion.
But to pass
Uh,
it.
For Article
Okay,
2,
yeah.
but not 1.
But an amendment to unlink them could be.
But as
Just
you're
majority.
saying, but as Jeremy was suggesting earlier, I think if there is not a 2/3 majority on 1, not going to be a 2/3 on 2.
No, no.
So,
Article 1 is a simple majority vote to pass.
There is a possibility that if it got unlinked, that 1 could pass and then 2 wouldn't. I'm just wondering procedurally, is there a way that 2 could be brought first? That'd be up to the moderate, right? Because part of why we put them,
John's rubbing his
we put them-
scalp and I don't blame him. I
we
think
put them together specifically because, as you put it, I think, Peter, regulating something that you haven't defined the right to do, right?
exactly.
So
You're so
now,
right.
Just remember that it is the town's position that to support the determination of the building commissioner and the zoning board of appeals, that these are allowed uses in residential districts. That is the official position of the town.
whether,
But it's not codified, right?
whether 2
I mean,
pass.
Well,
I'm not
it's
saying
not-
that it
it's-
isn't legal. I'm not.
Right.
It's just,
It just has to be.
right, it's not codified in the zoning bylaw. And this is where a judge could upend this whole thing. And I talked about that the other night, what would happen.
But John,
Um,
if 2 got passed, would that be considered that it would be codified?
Yes, if
Okay.
2 passes in the form of the planning board motion, short-term rentals will be an allowed use as of right in all zoning districts except the one, what is it? The
CI, isn't it?
Except
CI.
CI.
Yes,
if I could, well, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, so that would essentially, all the lawsuits would be dismissed at that point.
well, we would certainly move to dismiss them as moot.
Right.
I don't know what the plaintiffs might, we would make a motion to dismiss on suggestion of mootness.
Seems to me to have a better chance of getting the support that you need for 2 by doing it first, right? And then putting the regulation on after.
Well,
Did you all decide that, Peter, or did select board decide that, the order?
I don't recall how we did the 2 of them.
The select board decided the order of the articles.
Okay,
And they decided to put the general bylaw first. And that is what's on the warrant. And that the general bylaw, Article 1 requires a majority vote to pass. Okay?
mhm,
Article 2, and I'm sorry, Article 1 also, as with any amendment, is a majority vote to amend. Article 2 is a majority vote to amend, but a 2/3 vote to pass as amended.
Would we change our recommendation on the fly if 1 was amended and unlinked from 2?
Oh, I mean, even if it was unlinked, it wouldn't make it, it would still, our recommendations would stay the same. I mean, it's just that, it goes back to what I said, it's just to make things more strenuous without saying it's 100% legal,
Right.
even though we believe it's legal. But, obviously there are lawyers that don't believe it's legal. Is the reason we did that. John, can you send me a copy of this? Because tomorrow we have a short-term rental meeting. And I'd like to go over with the group.
I
So
thought
they
you
can
couldn't
test.
meet. Well,
Alright.
whatever. Let's ignore, Scott Wilson has his hand raised. I'm not sure who that is, but if you'd like to speak, Scott.
Okay, can you hear me?
There is, oh, hi.
Hi. I was at the meeting last Thursday that was aborted. And so you did an all Zoom meeting on Tuesday of this week. The purpose of the meeting when I went on last Thursday, they said, well, there's not going to be a vote on these things. And then on Tuesday, you had votes. And I was at Tuesday for a while, but I had to leave to pick somebody up at the boat. So I missed all the real excitement. And I'm kind of curious. My original question was going to be, what's the next step? I now think I understand it, although I'm not completely sure. But I just wanted to say, delinking 1 and 2 the way the select board did, gave you the opportunity to pass the short-term rental regulations without meeting the accompanying zoning bylaw, which requires more people to vote for it. And so that was a brilliant move by the select board. And it was brilliant to reverse the order. Originally, it was 2, then 1. What's now 2 was 1 when it first came out of the working group. And the select board reversed the order as well. So I think it's a shame what's happening. And I hope that we at least get 1 passed. But as it is right now, if 1 passes and 2 doesn't, and we lose 1, we lose the benefit of the working group's work. And short-term rentals are completely unregulated. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. I guess I don't know if this is helpful for you all, but I was thinking about how we communicate this. It is confusing. I think it's even confusing for some of us. And but one of the ways I was thinking and I mentioned this to Denise before is, Article 1, I believe that's the rules of the road, right? That's your seatbelt regulation. That's your speed limit. That's your, hey, you can't drive over the yellow line, right? It's the rules of the road. Article 2 is that we're paving you a road to drive on. And that's why I think Article 2 sounded so important, because it's very hard to say, we're going to regulate you, but we're going to keep you in legal jeopardy. And that's why I thought what we did the other night was so important. And I want to commend.
Is that goofed up?
Yeah.
And the committee is doing a lot of stuff in advance of the special town meeting. There will be posters and signs.
It's calling on the committee.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Scott, can you mute?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
So there will be things, and it's an independent group, but it's the ex-members of the committee. We're not part of the town. It's being done as independent residents.
Okay, I want to go back to John. Do you want to take us through 3 and 4? Because again, this is just informational at this point. We had extensive discussions 2 days ago on all of this. So I think the logical next step for anybody who is watching or listening is that it will be deliberated, I think, with a lot of enthusiasm on the floor of special town meeting. So John, if you could just, Maria, if you could put it back up to see 3 and 4, which is the other 2 are STR related articles that we made motions for. And then I would ask, yeah, thank you.
Well, Article 3 is the adoption of the community impact fee. And that's a simple motion that the provisions of 64G, Section 3D, paren A of the general laws are hereby accepted. And that's a simple majority vote.
Yep.
Article 4 is establishing the Special Purpose Stabilization Fund for affordable housing and dedicating the 100% of the community impact fee to the fund. And if you could scroll down, I'm sorry, Maria, a little bit. Is that you? And that is the motion that's been crafted. And that quantum of vote is a 2/3 vote.
Thank you, John. Okay, any questions from the committee in terms of what John's just shared with us? Because otherwise I will turn it back over to Jill to ask for any other business and bring us to a close, or Peter, whoever's chairing.
Jill.
Jill. Well, Denise, we do have a member of the public with their hand up. Do you want me to call on her? It's Kathy Baird.
Sure.
Sure, Kathy, you want to go ahead?
Mute. There we go. Okay, now you can hear me. I'm sorry, I was just going to answer, I attempt to give you an answer to the question you had before, Jill, about why the articles were in the order they were. And I know that at the select board meeting, that's the order that they were put in. And I think that one of the thoughts, and this again is a strategy kind of thought that the short-term rental work group may have had to do with, since the general bylaw, if the general bylaw was first, and it's easier and more likely to have perhaps have changes to it. As the vote goes to the floor, people might want to amend it. So the thought was that it might be helpful to the zoning law to get it passed if people knew what was in Article 1 before they voted on Article 2. So in other words, since you could change it, maybe you'd feel more comfortable with knowing what the rules are going to be and then vote for it. So that was just one of the thought processes back there. I just want to answer your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so everybody, what's that? Okay, John, you want to go ahead and talk to Mr. Kitchener?
Yes, Madam Chair, I apologize. I did not realize that 1 and 2 are going to be rediscussed this afternoon, but I just found that out and so dialed in very late.
John,
But I would
actually,
like-
we're not, John, they weren't actually rediscussed. John Giorgio, Town Council, just brought us through the motions that we made, and it was an FYI session. We're not rediscussing them or
Yeah, we're not
reopening.
asking for any votes here, Denise. I just wanted to make sure that the changes I made were what the Finance Committee intended, and I believe that answer is yes.
Okay, Madam Chair, again, if I may make one short statement that on Tuesday, in the public session, there was no discussion around the delinking of 1 and 2, and a number of the remaining former short-term rental work group really would appreciate an opportunity to discuss with you guys why we were recommending what we recommended and why we embraced the select board's recommendation that we do delink these. This was an example where most of us, not all, most of us agreed that the select board were right when they asked to do that. We had 3 sessions with them, all of about an hour each, and we came to understand each other's position and we agreed with them it was the right thing to do. I wish, Madam Chair, you would give the former short-term rental work group members an opportunity to talk with your group, because Mr. Schaefer is on your team, but Peter is not talking for the group. He's talking for himself, and we feel like we have not had an opportunity to engage with you on this
John,
very important matter.
John, at this point, we have made our motions. They have to be done. They're done today. And there will be 2 information sessions about the warrant articles, particularly 1 and 2, and obviously 3 and 4. There'll be plenty of opportunities to have a discussion there, and the opportunity to make any amendments as you will be on the floor of town meeting. And individuals, voters are absolutely welcome to propose amendments to the moderator in advance so she can tell whether it's in scope or not. I know you have to bring copies of your amendments to the floor of town meeting, so then that way people can read them. And that's the process now going forward. We're not in a position to reopen any. We're in the position to have discussions. Absolutely. There's 2 sessions scheduled. I don't have the dates right off the top of my head, but they're in.
I know those, Madam Chair.
So we can.
They are Q&A, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand this. It's done. I will say my last comment and then I will thank you. But the process let us down this week. It let us down. And I think you guys may want to reflect on it after this is all done. But thank you, Madam Chair. I understand your point of view. And yes, we will do what we need to do on the 7th. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
So,
I don't
Peter, go
believe
ahead.
it's a majority. I believe the majority is in favor of delinking, and that was the original construction of the articles. So,
right.
I think John John works very hard on this and he has his opinion.
Well, we all had our
Uh,
opinions and I think.
As
we
I
all
stated
expressed them
on
the other night.
Tuesday, oh, sorry, Jill. As I
I was
stated
just
on
saying, we all had,
Tuesday,
yeah,
I
sorry,
think,
you go ahead.
I think it's really important that this goes in front of the voters now. And it goes in front of the voters as it is. And then the voters have an opportunity to make any amendments they want to make. They have an opportunity to speak to it. I think it's at this point, that's the best way forward for this topic.
And I'd
Okay.
like to say one final thing, Denise. I think you're absolutely correct. I also believe that we engaged in a very forthright process that was open to all, and these issues were thoroughly discussed by this committee.
Thank you, Jeremy. Okay. Jill, I'm kind of stepping all over your toes as the chair here. It's amazing. I can do this from afar. So if there's no other business separate from what we've already discussed, I will look to Jill to bring us to conclusion.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
I got to do by roll call. Joanna,
Aye.
Denise,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Jill, aye.
Thank you, everyone. Our next
Adjourn.
meeting
Thanks, everybody.
is November 2nd at 1 o'clock. All on Zoom.